And I'm going to begin with 1 minute of public comment, starting with Phyllis Doherty, followed by Daniel Gus and Paul Dorico.
Good morning.
Thank you. Just a reminder, public comment is just items not on the agenda.
I beg your pardon?
Just a reminder, public comment is items not on the agenda.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Thank you. Phyllis Doherty, Animal Issues Movement. I'm also a former city employee and a trained humane officer, even though I'm not working in that capacity right now. I'm here to assure that this makes it on the record, and also that Councilman Rue, thank you for being here, is aware that this committee, the items that are coming here for animal welfare should be going to the Public Safety Committee. The budget, the $44 million budget that supports this department is allotted under public safety. The laws that are enforced by animal control officers, which are peace officers, are under public safety, Section 5300. This was put under animal welfare merely for Mr. Koretz to oversee Ms. Barnett's activities. We need to put it back under public safety where it belongs so it can serve the public.
Daniel Gus.
Good morning, council members. I have a letter from Sean Hassett, a deputy district attorney, about my complaint regarding Animal Services Commissioner Alana Yanez. Ms. Yanez perjured herself on her financial disclosure form. She failed to write in that she's employed by the HSUS, and she also checked under penalty of perjury. It was no accident that she failed to disclose her employer as the HSUS. You can deal with that. The district attorney is looking into that. For my housekeeper, we're trying to get low-income vouchers. However, Ms. Barnett has not responded to 3 requests for them. I am including a copy of my article from ericgarcetti.blogspot.com that shows that despite having a household income of almost $250,000, Ms. Barnett and her domestic partner, I proved that they've lived together for more than 2 years, and Ms. Barnett used a low-income voucher for a stray that she took in, and they're not allowed to be used for strays, and she's also getting low-income discounts from the DWP.
Thank you. Paul Dorico.
Good morning, my name is Paul Dorico. I'm one of the organizers of Protest LA Animal Services in Mayor Garcetti. I'd like to ask that every council member here commit to reformation of LA Animal Services for the egregious activities that we've documented, from fraud to ethics violations to issues that you've all been presented with. I hold you accountable as I hold myself accountable as a citizen. I'm responsible for how you perform, and we give you the torch to carry that for us. And when I feel that we bring issues to you, and you count us as troublemakers, well-documented issues on performance, I take offense to that. And we will move towards more actions to make you be aware that we don't like that activity, that we are here to support our city and have an effective animal services, and we count on you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I should note my colleague, Mr. Rue, is here as well, so we now have a quorum. I'd like to ask that item 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all go on consent without objection. And so those will be passed. Number 2, we approve the exemption. Number 3, approve the CAO report. Number 4, note and file the CAO report. Number 6, approve the CAO's recommendation, and number 5 and number 6 also approve the CAO's recommendation without objection. And now I'd like to start with item number 1.
Item number 1, communication from the Mayor and City Ethics Commission report relative to the appointment of Ms. Cynthia Ruiz to the Los Angeles City Employees Retirement System Board for the term ending June 30th, 2019. This matter is also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Welcome. Would you give us a little bit about your background and any connection to investment activities or retirement similar to what you'll be dealing with Lacers?
Good morning, council members. My name is Cynthia Ruiz, and I am currently a independent consultant, but I did serve the city of Los Angeles both in the capacity of the president of the Board of Public Works and an executive at the Port of Los Angeles. My background is actually counseling. I have a master's degree in counseling. I had my own counseling business for many years. And then earlier this year, I decided to take an early retirement from the city and become a consultant. So I am very committed to the city of Los Angeles, and I am very honored that the mayor has nominated me for a commissioner because I believe that public service is so important. I know that commissioners have oversight on the different departments, elected officials serve their role, so all working together, I do believe that we can make the city of Los Angeles a better place. Now, I'm not claiming to be a financial expert. I do believe that the Lacers is doing a great job. I know that the 7-member commission has oversight and responsibility as a general manager. But I do believe that there are policies that are put in place that they look at in terms of the ROI on the investment. And I also understand that when you're looking at the retirement system, you're looking at long-term investment. Because I currently am receiving a retirement from the city of Los Angeles, I believe it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm looking out for the members of Lacers. And I hope that I can add value and continue my service with the city.
And we appreciate all the good work that you've done for the city of Los Angeles. So there's no question about that. I do have one question, though. What's your general philosophy about rate of return? Because that's always sort of been an argument, at least since I got here in the midst of the recession, between whether Lacers has a responsibility to just their retirees as members or whether they have an equal responsibility to watch out for their current members. Because not much question that some of our retirement system's actions resulted in either layoffs or furloughs, some of the bad things that happened to current employees because we were shorter on cash based on the assumptions of rate of return.
Well, it's my understanding that the current assumed rate of return is 7.5, and again, there's policies that are put into place that are looked at every 3 years, so I do intend to review that, and I personally am very fiscally responsible and conservative, so I will make sure that that's currently evaluated, and I know that you and I have a meeting that's set up on the 16th, and I'll be more than happy to get whatever input from you that you feel is important.
That would be great.
And Councilmember Rue, I know that you and I have not had the opportunity to meet yet, but I understand that we do have a friend in common. Kaylin Kim speaks very highly of you. And she is just excited about you representing the city and thinks that you will do an excellent job.
Mr. Rue, any further questions?
Yeah. Yes, Kaylin's a dear friend. So whose position would you be replacing on the commission? Or you're replacing a commissioner, right?
It's my understanding it's a current vacant position.
Right. Okay. Well, I just want to applaud the mayor and his efforts to achieve gender equality, and obviously in this commission, he exceeded that, as well as making the city of LA and its leadership more representative of the city. So in that, he did a great service in selecting you, and it's a good thing to know that you're a retiree and a beneficiary of Lacers. So you were looking out for your own interest, and as well as the rest of the city. So congratulations, and look forward to meeting with you again.
Thank you.
And we will move to approve your appointment without objection, and wish you the best in this new position.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 7.
Item 7, continue from November 19, 2013, January 20th, 2015, February 17, 2015, and April 21st, 2015. Department of Animal Services reports in response to motion, Coretzel Farrell, relative to implementing changes in the Los Angeles Municipal Code to increase the number of cats that a city resident may own.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dana Brown from the Department of Animal Services. The department believes that this change will allow city residents who are willing and able to house and care for more cats to be able to bring them into their homes in compliance with the law. Please be reminded that this item only encompasses the placement of indoor altered cats. It is a modest increase that will be absorbed by our current deployment in terms of enforcement. And also, this will likely result in the increased placement of our current shelter animals, which will thereby raise our live-save rate for these animals as well. So we do ask for your approval on this item, respectfully.
And I wonder if you could describe the current regulations on cat ownership, including the current limits and any impacts that we expect from greater cat ownership up to 5.
The current ordinance allows for only 3 cats per household, and we do believe that by increasing this very modest increase will allow cat owners who are able and willing to place cats and have cats in their homes to be able to save the lives of those animals. In prior meetings that we have discussed this, there had been public comment from a number of citizens who currently do house more than 3 animals and would like to be in compliance. They feel like based on things like their own personal, their square footage of their homes and certain things like that allow them to care for more animals, and without raising it so high that we'd have to do more enforcement on whether or not your square footage or your home or your means are able to care for a certain number of animals. We determined that a small increase would allow more cats' lives to be saved in the community.
Are we expecting to do home inspections for this increase?
Well, we certainly are able to do home inspections, and with the current deployment, as you know, we are understaffed now. We are working with the personnel department. The exam for animal control officer was given on last Saturday, and we do expect a list in the very near future. So currently we have 8 vacancies that we already had. Then we have 12 positions that were approved in the budget and 12 more that are going to be approved once a list is available. So a total of 38 officers will be added to the deployment.
So that's still in process, that we haven't hired any of those folks yet?
Yes, sir.
And do we have any sense of how many more cats we expect to be fostered or adopted as a result of this?
No, actually, I don't have any any specific numbers on the expectation. But like I said, there are a number of families who are already over the limit, and we want to be able to bring those people into compliance. And then there are people who said that if they were able to house more animals, then they would. And so certainly a number of the constituents in areas that have larger square footage homes have been very vocal in their desire to house more animals if the city laws would allow.
Thank you. Mr. Rue, anything to add?
Can you elaborate on some of the other safeguards that currently exist? Other enforcement mechanism that the city has if a neighbor complains about a home with multiple pets?
If somebody complains about a home with what they consider to be more indoor cats than are allowed, we are able to go to the home and do an inspection based on that complaint. The thing about indoor cats is that it's a little bit difficult to tell how many indoor cats someone has unless they have so many, far over 5. In other words, because we don't currently license cats, so the enforcement is a little bit different than it is with dogs. But we do respond to those calls, and we do take action when we find people who are over the limit. But like I said, generally speaking, those cases are hoarding cases, and the department believes that hoarding is not necessarily a part of this particular issue, as hoarding is more of a medical condition in our opinion, and no matter what the rules or the laws are, those people are going to continue that behavior.
Do you have any data sets on the number of calls and response rate? And
Yes, we do have data about that. I don't have it with me today, but I can get that data for you.
great.
Excuse me.
Okay, we have a number of speakers from the public on this item, beginning with Dr. Dan Silver. Welcome.
Morning. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Dan Silver, Endangered Habitats League and Urban Wildlands Group. We urge rejection of this increase. The true purpose, as you've heard, is to increase the shelter cats housed at private residences. As detailed in written correspondence, it is unenforceable. There's no safeguards, such as licensing or prohibition of running at large. It's an invitation to nuisance. It's absurd to suggest that different households would have different rules depending on the number of cats they own, which could change at any time. It would increase the unconscionable killing of wild birds and other wildlife by outdoor cats. And as a medical doctor, I strongly concur with the County of Los Angeles Health Department's concerns over the spread of the serious disease of toxoplasmosis through cat feces and of typhus through fleas. Legally, this violates CEQA in numerous aspects and the injunction that the city is now under. Thank you.
Thank you. I seem to hear a dog barking. Phyllis Dougherty. To be followed by Dan Gus and Mr. Herman.
Phyllis Dougherty with the Animal Issues Movement. We currently have a situation where the reason we have too many cats is people have 3 cats. They are not spaying, neutering, which they are mandated by law, and they are not keeping them indoors, which is recommended. So the solution that Mr. Kretz and Ms. Barnett are proposing is we give them more cats. So this will act to increase the number of cats because there is absolutely no control over cats. With all due respect to the last speaker, you cannot enter a property and conduct an inspection just because you have a complaint. They would ask to go in just like any law enforcement agency. This department, if you asked for the last time they went on a cat complaint, I talked to 2 officers and a lieutenant this morning. They can't remember because we don't have enough officers to go out and take care of the serious complaints. This is a recipe for disaster. People are not taking care of the animals they have now. They are not spaying, neutering. We need to implement licensing and...
Thank you. Mr. Gus?
In addition to being a humane advocate, I have an animal charity based in Sherman Oaks, and I'm handling a hoarder situation in Nuri Martinez's district with 31 animals, 25 cats, 8 feral adults. With all due respect, this is superficial garbage. I have asked for help on severe cases, and this is hardly the first one. The city challenged them here and now. Where are these resources? They don't send out humane officers for pit bull fights. They don't send out officers for dog attacks. They don't send out officers for illegal sales. All of a sudden, you're going to start monitoring every household with 3, 4, or 5 cats? Please contact me for photos of the 31 animal hoarding situation. And here's an email from Sitting Commissioner Roger Wolfson, who says LA Animal Services is a leaking rowboat with no way to plug all the holes at once. Where is he today?
Thank you. Mr. Herman? please start his time.
Yes, meow. Did you know it's a public nuisance to have 25 cats, Miss Nuri, anti-American grande? You should take care of cats. All pets deserve to live like humans because they nurture us with such great love unconditionally. And the doctor was right. No safeguards. A nuisance. You've created a nuisance. Monitoring and hoarding animals is unsafe and unconstitutional, for we Americans protect animals. Isn't that unconstitutional? What are the safeguards behind this? Sounds like a lot of bullshit, Nuri. You better take care of your area because anti-American grande, you're going to go down in the history books known to kill animals. Little cats. I have a little cat. He's about this big, this size, this wide. He weighs about 11 pounds. And I found him in the street and I saved him. And I saved Mr. B. And you tell him, Mr. B, next time you're at City Hall. That's all, Paul. Keep 1 second.
I wonder if we could have the city attorney come up for a moment and address the question.
Lori Rittenberg, City Attorney.
So there are claims that a modest increase from 3 to 5 cats would require secret clearance. Is there any reason why we would believe that would be correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I wasn't aware that that would be an issue, but I will take that back to my office.
I don't know if
I don't know if
anyone
there's
from,
anyone else here who can help me
anyone
with
from
that.
Animal Services able to answer that question? Ms. Barnett, we had a couple people address potential CEQA issues from the increase to 3 to 5 cats. Do we have any reason to believe that CEQA clearance would be necessary for that kind of modest increase?
Well, I'm not an environmental attorney, but I would say that the cats are going to be indoors, litter boxes, no touching the ground, so I can't imagine why it would tip a CEQA question.
And there's also an argument that this isn't enforceable because we're not going to send out people to hundreds of thousands of homes and checked whether the cats are altered or not.
You know, I think we have to decide, is the assumption that people want to follow the law or that they don't? If the people don't want to follow the law, they're already breaking the law. They already have more cats than the 3-cat limit. They may even be feeding outdoor cats. It's not part of our program. But what we're talking about is asking for the opportunity for people who love cats and who care about cats and who want cats to have 2 more cats in their home, which will also help us with the fact that right now we're only saving 54% of the cats who enter our shelters. This city committed in 2000 to become a no-kill city. We're not getting there with our cats. We're at 82% for the dogs, 54% for the cats. If some good law-abiding citizens want 2 more indoor cats, making a total of 5, I think we should let them do it.
Any other questions? By the way, I should note my colleague, Mr. Harris Dawson, has joined us as well, for the record. Any other questions, comments?
Make a quick comment. I know this isn't the fix-all solution, we'd like for it to be more data-driven, and, it should be more about the well-being of the animals. And I've received lots of correspondence regarding whether it's based on square footage. I know enforcement is a big concern, but I think this is a great first step, and I'd love to continue this discussion in the future. And it should be more about the well-being of the animals, how they're taken care of. There's other, before you got here, Ms. Barnett, I asked about other mechanisms that people could make a complaint on, like health department violations and whatnot. And it should be the condition of the home and whatnot. So the number isn't really we shouldn't be fixated on the number, but it's before us today. I mean, I am going to support Councilmember Koretz's motion, but I just want to make that comment that this is an opportunity for us to further discussion in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris Dawson, any other comments? I guess I'd make my own, just that we're trying to come at this problem from every direction. One thing is, how can we appropriately allow more animals to be adopted? Who are the first people we can convince to take more indoor cats into their homes. And logically, it's people that already have them. Now, there are plenty of people out there that violate the law and already have more than 3, but there are many others. I'd be an example, except my lease only says 2, so I'm not going to get beyond 2 for now. But I would be someone that wouldn't have more than 3 because I feel compelled to obey the laws that we write, and would be a perfect candidate for increasing to 5, keeping them indoors. My indoor cats have never set foot outdoors in the 12-plus years that I've had them. And I think they're typical indoor cats. Most indoor cats will never want to venture out. I think it'll result in a net increase in cats being invited into people's homes and no increase, and if anything, a decrease in the number of outdoor cats out there causing trouble for birds. There's no question we have to do a lot more in the realm of spay and neuter, which is, I think, the bigger piece of the solution. For reasons that I find somewhat inexplicable. Some of the wildlife folks that are trying to protect the birds of the city, with whom I am totally sympathetic, are making it difficult for us to do spay and neuter of feral cats, and are resulting in an increase in the number of cats. And we have more and more kittens that come into the shelters as an exact direct correlation and result, and hopefully at some point we deal with that issue through the court system and can start doing more spay and neuter of feral cats as well. But this is a little step in the right direction. It will save the lives of cats. It won't harm the lives of birds, and I think it's a good step forward. So I'd like to ask that we have a roll call vote on this one, just for the heck of it. Oh, I'm sorry. I had one additional speaker card arrive, and I will acknowledge that. So, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Members of the committee, as you know, I take public transportation, and sometimes it runs late. I'm Jim Clark with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. We represent housing providers here in the city. We do have a couple of concerns with this proposal. While we do respect the idea of saving these pets from euthanization, we would want to say that our current position is that this be restricted to single-family homeowners or those that rent single-family homes. Multi-unit buildings in close quarters could present a problem with regard to quiet enjoyment of other tenants. We also are concerned about the restrictions that we must follow under the RSO with regard to security deposits and pet deposits, because we would not be able to increase that amount of money if the number of pets were to be increased. And so we'd like to talk these things out, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And for some reason, Mr. Herman has submitted a second card and thinks he can speak twice on this item, but that will not be happening. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for your input. I think certainly the fact that a lease controls has a significant impact on this, because obviously leases can put in whatever restrictions on number of pets that you wish, which I am personally constrained by such a lease, and so I have 2 cats instead of 3. I think the possibility of mewing indoor cats as a big nuisance, I think, is probably a stretch. These are all indoor cats that we're referring to. If they're outdoor cats and they actually become a nuisance, you can certainly file a complaint with the department.
Mr. Chair, yes, quick question. Wouldn't the lease supersede this rule?
Yes, it does. So I'm not allowed to have a third cat in my situation. Even though the law says I can have 3, it's ultimately the landlord's call
But
on
the
how they
lease
structure
says
that.
no pets or 1 pet, then you can't have more than 1. Or
Right, correct. Correct. And so, again, I would ask for a roll call vote on this item.
Okay, in regard to item number 7, Council File 131513, on roll call, Councilmember Koretz, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Rue?
Aye.
And Councilmember Harris Dawson?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
The motion has 3 ayes.
Item number 8.
Item number 8, motion Koretz-Weezar relative to requesting the city attorney to review the matter of Doherty versus City of Los Angeles and to make recommendations on how the city should proceed in regard to implementing ordinance number 182309.
And do we have a representative to speak to this item?
Deputy City Attorney Chuck Sewell, City Attorney's Office.
And I wonder if you could give us a brief overview of this case.
The city had issued a zoning administrator's interpretation to resolve ambiguity in the zoning code. That was challenged by petitioner. Petitioner prevailed. The court ordered us to rescind the ZAI. We've done that, so we've complied with the court's order. As far as moving forward, we feel we can resolve the issues legislatively, and we're prepared to work with the planning department to make a report to that effect.
Now, was there a reason that we didn't appeal the ruling?
There was the uncertainty of the outcome, the time involved. It could take 1 to 2 years, maybe more, and we intended to change the zoning code anyway, and we felt this was the quickest way to get there with the legislative fix.
So it made more sense to do a legislative fix than to fight the issue in court.
Given the circumstances,
yeah. So have the city attorney's office and planning met yet to develop a strategy on how to proceed?
We've met briefly, and we have a strategy, and we're prepared to put that in a report and report back.
Okay, so you don't have steps for us to take it at this time?
We'd prefer to meet with planning, formally put it in a report and present that to you, but we definitely have a strategy in mind.
Okay. Colleagues? Questions, comments? We have several speakers from the public, starting with Phyllis Doherty.
Thank you, Phyllis Doherty, and I was a petitioner in this prevailing action. The reason that the court made a very, very strong decision on this is that this was an attempt to not notify any business owner in this city that next door to them could develop something like this, a rescue with unlimited adult shelter animals, and they have no recourse. So you have your mom-pop stores, they've been struggling, you have a bakery, a restaurant, a childcare center, and suddenly 25 large dogs pop up next door with no special provisions for sanitation, ventilation, or anything. I have the emails between the city attorney, the mayor's office, and those that contrived and conspired to make sure that the city, or that the people of the city and the business owners would not know about this because they know they will not approve of it. Please be sure, councilman, the new councilman, that every person in this city is aware, otherwise your small businesses will suffer.
Thank you. Mr. Herman?
On behalf of all the pets in Los Angeles, as you heard, you say, Mr. Inexplicable Me, shops need not to obtain a kennel permit? That sounds ridiculous to a guy like me, a nonchalant person for the first time in an animal meeting as this commission this morning. But incidentally, as you heard the city attorney representing you all, strategy with no report? What kind of business is this? Sounds shaky, shady business. Not a scandal? Hopefully not. But the attempt of no liability or libel to the recourse of this action, I find that offensive. Don't become anti-Americans against animals. All animals deserve a proper place to stay, live, and get the fair treatment that we Americans get when we're homeless on the street, y'all. Keep our animals safe, flea protected. So don't forget, Mr. Paul Koretz, it is I, Mr. Peppa Pig. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Gus will be our last speaker.
Hi, Daniel Gus. In one of my earlier comments, I gave you an email from a current commissioner, Roger Wolfson, who last August wrote regarding illegal sales that it's a leaking rowboat, no way to plug all the holes at once. In, I believe, Mr. Harris Dawson's district. It could be Mr. Wesson's, but I believe it's CD8. Please ask the department for its entire record for 4807 Southwestern Avenue. On January 10th, 2011, I reported and documented with photos illegal animal sales at 4807 Southwestern Avenue, January 10th, 2011. It took Ms. Barnett 505 days to send one to the location. So not only was their investigation of illegal sales disingenuous, then they sent somebody else because you know that the animals that they were selling were not there anymore 505 days later. Where are the resources for enforcement?
Thank you. And I'll suggest that we move to approve this motion to request an update report from the city attorney without objection. So that'll be ordered. And now we have a special meeting and item number 9.
Okay, this begins a special meeting. Item number 9, discussion item, General Manager of the Department of Animal Services to discuss safety measures and other steps taken at shelters and in animal rescue vehicles to protect animals during excessive heat waves in Southern California.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett, and for being here. And I have some serious concerns, and I don't know whether complaints are valid or not. We get them from a lot of different sources. But 2 things that I've heard. One, that shelter animals in general may not be treated in a humane manner in the heat. One thing that's been alleged is that ACOs are sent out to collect stray dogs in compartments that aren't air conditioned, and that some dogs may have even died in the heat. I have no personal knowledge of this, so I don't know one way or the other, but if that is the case, I do want to know why we allow it, why we have any vehicles that would not be air conditioned, whether we're at risk of violating state law that prevents that, and whether we should even own such vehicles if we do. Goes without saying that that would be unacceptable. The other area where we've had complaints, and a number of them, is the dog kennels in our shelters. That there's exposure to significant heat, and although presumably not recently, to rain as well and cold, and that we use misters, which are often in disrepair, to help address this. So I wonder if you could address those 2 issues, where we stand, what plans, if any, there are to improve things.
Sure, absolutely. It's good to have a public discussion and make sure people understand exactly what we are and what we are not doing. I'll start, if it's okay, with the shelters. There are misters at all of the shelters except West Valley. West Valley has a swamp cooler. When there is a problem with some of the equipment at the shelters, the ACT supervisor puts in a request for repairs to General Services. It has been my experience that General Services understands the importance of the misters and that they are very responsive. There was a recent delay at West LA because there were parts that they had to order for the pump, and there are people here from General Services who can explain more about the actual parts than I can, but I can tell you that the West LA misters were repaired yesterday. So Typically, what we do at West Valley is there are swamp coolers and they add fans. Now, at West Valley, the dogs can come inside the building where the building is controlled by the swamp coolers and by the fans. It's the option of the dog to be inside or outside. There are some kennels that have no climate control whatsoever that are, we call them more puppy pens. We don't use those. Dogs might be put in it for part of the day to be on display, but they are not housed there during extreme weather, either too hot or too cold. So those are really actually not even being used during the heat. The other things that we do is we control when dogs are walked. For example, there was one dog, and I think it's been about 2 years ago now, that a volunteer was walking, and it was a very hot day. The dog collapsed on the street, and staff had to go out and carry the dog back to the shelter. The dog was treated and the dog was fine, but that sort of triggered a policy that once the temperature is up to a certain degree, the dogs are not walked out on the sidewalk out in the heat. They can walk them early in the morning. The same goes for play groups. They can be early in the morning or they can be on days that are cooler, but we can't have the dogs running around getting overheated during extreme heat. We talked to all the shelters. We talked to the veterinarians. Our chief veterinarian told me that there was one incident of an older dog that some people suspected had suffered from heat. He actually felt it was more of a humidity issue, and it was due to the age of the dog, and it was not fatal. So we cannot actually validate any situations of kennel deaths due to heat. We've checked all the shelters. We've asked the ACT supervisors what they remember. We've also asked our staff veterinarians what they remember. We've checked the records. We cannot verify that that's the case. I think that we are...
The dogs haven't died in the kennels, but...
No, sir.
Obviously, there's concern about them being in great discomfort, or we wouldn't have gotten these complaints. So.
Well, when the misters are on, I think the misters do reduce the temperature at least 10 degrees or so. And the misters are on. I mean, we did have a delay, and was probably, General Services can tell you better than me, but I think it was about 10 days. It could have been as much as 2 weeks at West LA, but it was because they didn't have the part to fix. Typically, they come out, we call them, they're out the next day, and they have the misters going. They are tricky little gadgets that do require a fair amount of service, but General Services understands.
What do we do for the couple weeks if they're out, and why don't we ask these companies for emergency service and overnighting the parts so we get this fixed more quickly?
Well, that's certainly something we can request.
I don't think it would take us to ask. It seems like when that's out and you have valley shelters that could be over 100 degrees, it should just be done.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't this have been done in the past?
Well, that would be a question I would ask General Services.
Well, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. I mean, we put in the request when they break, and typically we stay in touch with General Services. And in this particular case for West LA, they said that there was a part on order, and the part came in yesterday, and it was repaired yesterday. In terms of whether or not it could have been overnighted, I cannot respond to that.
Yeah, I mean. I wouldn't say it's your direct responsibility, but at the same time, Animal Services should be on it and pounding General Services to get it done. And maybe you can identify yourself and explain why we would have allowed it to take that long to have a part repaired.
David Pascal, Department of General Services. The West Valley the West LA Animal Shelter did have a problem with this misting system, and as mentioned by the General Manager of Animal Services, we did come out and diagnose the problem, and we contacted a number of vendors. And I'm informed by my staff that one of the reasons why it took a long time was because several of the vendors were unresponsive to our initial request. In addition to that, when we did find a vendor, they could not ship it as quickly as we wanted them to. But we understand that this is a health and safety problem. As the General Manager of Animal Services just indicated, that's the reason why when we get a request, from any of the animal shelters, we make that a priority and we get out there as soon as possible to address that. For instance, with the problem we just had at the West Valley Animal Shelter, we responded as soon as we got the request, and we placed that condensation pump on the swamp cooler as quickly as we could. So we treat this as a health and safety issue, and health and safety is a priority straight across the board in the Department of General Services.
Anyone else with questions on the shelter piece?
Shall I move on to the vans?
Yeah, why don't you go on to the vans, 'cause that's probably the area of greater concern.
Okay. In 2013, one cat suffered from dehydration after being left in an animal rescue vehicle for 2 days. The animal rescue vehicle has vents that allow airflow when the vehicle is not running. That's an important factor. In 2012, 3 dogs died from being left inside an animal control van too long for several hours. 5 other dogs on that same incident suffered severe heat exhaustion, and those vans also have the air vents. Both incidents in 2013 and 2012 resulted in formal discipline charges against the responsible employees. The vans, the debate is whether or not we have those covered vans or whether to use for animal pickup or whether we use the trucks that have the vents in the side. The vans don't have any air conditioning unless the van is running. So this has actually been a question among staff who would prefer to drive the vans over the trucks. We use the vans more for storage, for transporting emergency equipment than we do for animals because there's no air conditioning that runs to the back, and when the motor is turned off, the van immediately heats up. The trucks, or the animal rescue vehicles as we call them, have side panel ventilation. They also have blower systems to circulate throughout the compartments, the individual compartments where the animals are held. Therefore, they remain cooler when the vehicle is turned off than the closed-up vans do. A 2-day test took place last October comparing the trucks with the ventilation and the vans. There were 4 readings taken, and the outside ambient temperature was approximately 80 degrees at the time. Both the van and the truck were driven for about 15 or 20 minutes each. The difference was an average of 2.5 degrees between the 4 tests, with the van being cooler when the air conditioner was on, but it heats up faster. A survey was conducted of 6 local animal service agencies regarding their fleets. The agencies included LA County, Seattle, Pasadena, Humane, Santa Monica, Inland Valley, and Riverside. Most of the agencies had vehicles and compartments very similar to what Los Angeles Animal Services has for transporting animals. All the agencies had side vents in their vehicles with one exception. The exception was a backup transportation van for Santa Monica. Their main fleet has side vents. All had air blowers in their animal compartments like our animal services, animal rescue vehicles. 4 of the agencies had some vehicles with air conditioners or a component that attempted to cool airflow. At least one of the agencies commented that they felt the air blowers worked better for the animals than trying to create something for the covered enclosed vans. Santa Monica returns to the shelter like we do with each animal. Our staff is instructed when they pick up an animal, bring it back to the shelter. Some agencies keep them in the van for longer. We have disciplined people for not doing that. And I just want to make you aware that there will be an in-depth report from the people who do the fleet assignments and who make these decisions at the September 22nd commission meeting for anyone who wants to come and actually hear direct testimony from the staff who makes these decisions.
So does nothing exist on the market that would be sort of a hybrid of this, that would air condition when it's moving but be vented when it's not moving?
Well, that's what these trucks are. The problem is the vans that are completely enclosed, these box vans, the air conditioning doesn't go to the back. And if you can put tubes to take it to the back, but when you turn the motor off, you don't have anything. When you stop the trucks, each one of the compartments has ventilation through the door, and so that it continues. You know, it's a totally different vehicle. The trucks are designed to carry animals in all sorts of temperature conditions. The vans are not. We have a few vans that we use and we largely use them for emergency equipment to get to sites where where we're going to then offload the equipment and do some kind of a rescue.
So how hot does it get? I've heard it claim that it can get over 100 degrees in the compartments where the dogs are held.
The van. Let's see what it says here. The vans. On the November test, the vans that have no side door ventilations became extremely hot, and last November they got up to 129 degrees. That's the vans, but the ones with the air cool with the vents don't get that hot.
How hot do they get?
I don't have that number, but.
So do we use the air-conditioned ones that get up to 129 degrees?
Well, that's the debate. There's some of the staff has a preference for driving those vans, and they say that there is a 2 or 3 inch difference of lifting a dog into the van, and they think that's easier. We have not given those vans over to be used for transporting animals because we're concerned that once the motor's turned off, they heat up very quickly. It's just like taking your dog to the grocery store with you. In this kind of weather, you shouldn't do it. You should leave them at home. There's no way that you can crack the windows or give them water and have them remain comfortable when you turn the motor off and go into the grocery store.
Other questions, members? We have a number of speakers from the public on this item, and we'll begin with Paul Dorigo.
Hi. Good morning. This issue was brought in front of the Animal Commission October 2014. On May 26th, they had a hearing on this issue. September 1, the misters get fixed. We've had animals die in the back of the truck. That's almost a year. So, ladies and gentlemen, Paul, you have all the information. Why are you sitting there like you don't have this information? You've been shown photographs with thermometer readings of back of the truck. I'm asking everybody to take accountability and responsibility for what happens and what things are brought forward is that when we follow up, the Animal Commission, this is a resignable negligence offense. They should resign from their position to allow something this long through 3 heat waves. That is not what we count on. We count on them taking responsible time to do things. This is well documented. The employee who that dog died was fired and brought back with an attorney. Mark Salazar made the decision to remove the vans with the air conditioning, so he made a disciplinary call on this. This was a disciplinary call to do that. So everything was put into place, all the actions were taken, and they made the wrong choice. But let's be responsible here. If I'm general manager, I get $220,000 a year. I'm responsible for the misters at the shelters. Thank you.
Mr. Dorigo, I do have a question for you. So what would be the right choice in your view to deal with the van problem?
Well, the vans do have cooling vents that go in the back. The AC vans do cool the back. You have to turn it on with a manual switch. The employee wasn't trained correctly to understand to turn the switch, and she forgot. She was very remorseful about the event. And it doesn't mean that she should have been fired. She should have been trained. That's an event that happened to that young lady that now she has an experience, but the staff needs to support each other. When people take out those vans and put animals in the back, they need to be leaders and accountable to what they're doing. And I feel that this person...
But let me ask you the question that was posed by the general manager.
Sure.
So if the air-conditioned vans can get up to 129 degrees when they're not on...
Right.
Isn't that an equal danger?
Well, look, if this happened since 2012, if you are accountable and responsible for having transports that are safe, do you let it go this long? No, when was the last training that the staff had on the vans? Go ahead and ask those questions. When were they trained? How often are they trained? Right? Because then these issues get mitigated through training. So the vans should have been the proper vans. They do have AC that does blow in the back when you turn it on. I think she's incorrect on what she's saying about the AC vans. The ventilated vans, I'm not sure of, but we have thermometer readings of those vans. So
Correct. All right.
it's training,
Thank
right?
you.
And correct equipment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phyllis Doherty?
Phyllis Doherty. I'm going to speak quickly as someone that's done this, okay? The vans, what you do with the vans is exactly what you do with the police car. The air conditioning is on. When you get out, you have 2 keys. You leave one on, that keeps the air conditioning running. You take the other key with you, lock the van, and go get your other animals and bring them back. Police officers do this all the time. This is a standard way of handling this type of vehicle. The real problem is with these the collection vehicles, who $43 million in this department. The steering wheels come off in their hands. An officer the other day couldn't stop one. She had to run against a pole after she had put it in reverse, done everything she could, and pulled on the emergency brake to stop it. The other day, and another one, the door flies open when you go around a corner. The batteries die when they're driving. The back compartments will not stay closed, and they have them taped. This entire fleet needs to be changed, and those vans need to be taken away from Mrs. Barnett's smart team for storage and used for the animals.
Thank you.
That's important. That's important to build a difference there.
Whitney Smith.
Hello. I don't want to be redundant, but I do think that Brenda Barnett is much needed in the Hillary campaign because she could explain everything about the emails. She has a forte for disassembling. There's no excuse for any parts being missing. I think if Brenda or the head of General Services had to spend 5 seconds in one of those compartments without air conditioning, you'd find that you get that part real fast. Or any of the people on the staff have no air conditioning. If you've ever sat in your own car for like 1 minute without air conditioning, it's unacceptable. All the parts that go through General Services, whether it's the leaky faucets, the misters, the heaters on the floor, they always are without a part. And so I suggested to Brenda in an email, why doesn't she start getting on the winter parts that are not missing, since it's always this big drama. I'm sorry, government just does not work or serve the animals when you have to sit around explaining why a part for mister is such a big deal. This is a first-class city. Let's get on it.
Thank you. Michael Bell, to be followed by Antonio Herman, who's our last speaker.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having this hearing. I have spoken with a number of staff from East Valley, West Valley, and North Central, and they all concur the fact that they would like to have vans that work with air conditioning, especially for the summer. And I have photographs, obviously, of the vans without air conditioning, which are the ones they're imposed to use from East and West Valley, particularly. And the photograph shows 108 degrees inside that van, inside a metal cage. Thankfully, that day, the officer did not have to pick up an animal. This is not news to me that just comes out of nowhere. It comes from the officers themselves that drive these vans and have requested me to do something about it because they're afraid to step forward and speak about it for fear of freeway therapy, which is punishment, which is reprisal tactics, as it were. As far as the West Valley is concerned, there are the swamp coolers and the fans don't make any difference. I had my own theater. I had a swamp cooler. It didn't cool anybody off. I had to put in air conditioning. I think the city can do the same thing at the West Valley shelter.
Thank you. Mr. Herman?
That's how offensive animals get when they're upset. Put a little poor little animal inside a container, no air conditioning. How would you feel if it were you? Thank you, Mr. B. Go ahead, take it on. How would you feel if it were you inside that little hot compartment without any air conditioner? I don't know. When I watch Peppa Pig, he looks very refreshed, never sweats. And I say, Georgie, what's wrong with Peppa Pig? Why is he sweating? Oh, we don't have air conditioning. That's ridiculous. We need to have air conditioning for our animals. Otherwise, they may pass out or have some type of brain trauma caused by all this heat. So let us be fair.
I think we should put air conditioning, misters, whatever it takes to keep our animals refreshed, and especially keep those kennels clean and cool over the hot summers, because the humidity makes us very ill.
Thank you, Mr. B, for being up front with Mr. Peppa Pig.
Thank you. And I have a card from Daniel Gus. Did I not already hear him on this item, or did I miss it?
I filled mine out at home, so I didn't speak on this item.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Daniel Gus, I'm a contributor to City Watch LA. For $220,000, when Ms. Barnett comes here and tells you something as fact, you should have a strong degree of confidence that she's telling you the truth. How about a field trip where we can show you, she's telling you the air doesn't go to the back, and it does? You should be questioning why on yet another issue, Mr. Koretz, how many of these issues have come up where she doesn't come here and state the facts? Bring up one of those vans and let's see if that air doesn't go to the back. And then find out why the general manager, who makes about 18% more than you do, isn't telling you the truth. Either incompetence or she's lying. Last October, my article for City Watch, pickpocketing the LA Welfare Trust Fund, Animal Welfare Trust Fund, it said that the money should be used to fix these balmy fleet of animal transport trucks. Well, the city squandered hundreds of thousands of dollars on other things that aren't life and death issues. I'm going to give you copies of the article, and you should ask, where did these hundreds of thousands of dollars go instead of to protecting these animals? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gus. Well, unfortunately, we're in a situation where the council meeting is just about to start, so I would ask if colleagues have any other comments. If not, I think we will continue this item, and we will ask Animal Services to come back at either our next meeting or a special meeting if we call another one in between, with proposals to improve this situation both in the shelters and in transport vehicles. And I thank all of you who came to testify on these items, and we are adjourned.